Hi, and welcome to the Kid and Friends podcast. My guest today is Peter Anderson. He's a relationship mentor, a performer, and author of The Playful Couple. Peter's helped countless couples trade burnout for play and tension for connection. With a background in dance, improv, and deep therapeutic tools like IFS and polyvagal theory, he brings a rare combo of science and spontaneity to the art of love. He just doesn't teach communication. He helps people feel safe through the real, curious, and joyful with each other again. Sorry about that. How are you, man? It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. How you doing?
Not too bad. So, where did the idea for the book come from? I know we had a first conversation, maybe I don't know, like 2 months ago, and we had some technical difficulties, and you gave me some of your background story. If I remember correctly, I do have notes, but I don't remember. I don't have any notes for this part. You have 6 children, I think, and it's from, or it's four or six. Is it six?
Yeah, I have three children that are mine and then three stepchildren.
Right, exactly. And then
Yeah.
uh, I think we were both comparing stories about our children
Yes.
and stuff,
Yeah.
right when the cameras went out. So, how long have you been married?
Well, I'm actually not married, and this is where the book actually came off. I never last. I was 16 years with my first partner, and
Okay,
then I was 7 with my second partner.
right.
And I'm engaged to get married for the first time next year.
Okay.
And what has happened is I didn't realize that when I was in relationships, they were very adventurous and very attractive ladies and
Sure.
fun, intelligent. But underlining there was this sense of almost a subtle anxiety through the relationship that I was dealing with that I didn't really understand.
On your
And as
side.
I got older, it got worse.
Okay.
um, and the
Yeah.
relationships weren't really healthy. And it wasn't until I found my latest relationship that I started to understand what the difference was. I did a lot of internal work to get to that
Sure.
stage, but then I was like, oh, okay, so that was my issue. And now I finally found a relationship that is healthy for me. Not saying that my other
Yeah.
partners don't loving relationships now for their partners,
Sure.
but for me and them, our attraction was almost like a trauma attraction more than a loving
Okay.
attraction.
And did you have a traumatic childhood or family events
No,
that happened that would put you in that area, or is it something that just happened during the relationships?
yeah, I don't. I think this is when I started to learn about complex trauma. I found the
Yeah.
different description of trauma because I always saw trauma as a an event that was quite traumatic. Like you can go,
Yeah.
oh, a car crash,
Like a
or you got,
specific event that is
yeah,
big
that
enough
is,
to really move
yeah,
you.
yeah. But I found out later that post-traumatic stress disorder came mainly, if I got my information right, from coming back from the Vietnam War. And the psychologists
Yeah.
were able, because there was funding, they were able to focus in more into post-traumatic stress disorder. But complex
Right.
trauma hadn't really been discussed so much. And a lot of people suffer from complex trauma where you can just get through life and there's
It
no
kind of just
major
builds on
thing.
top of itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, and a lot of people don't realize that throughout the course of the day, just on any given day, you might have 10 to 12 traumatic events just happen to you dealing
mm,
with just other people.
yeah,
And if it's something that's happening on a consistent basis and you kind of get used to it and make it acceptable because you don't have the proper parameters or guidelines for yourself or those that you love, on how you
mm,
like to interact, it starts to pile up quick. You don't
yeah,
realize it.
yeah. And because you're almost frozen in the situation, that you can't actually fight
Yeah.
or flight from it because either it's your boss and you don't want to lose your job or your relationship and you've got kids and you don't want to go and you love your kids and or you hope it's going to be okay tomorrow and then you're stuck. And this energy of being
Yeah.
stuck, the nervous system starts to shut itself down. So yeah, it's unfortunately, I think we're not even aware sometimes it's happening to us. and then it starts
No.
to almost boil, like the metaphor with the boiling water in the saucepan. It's starting to simmer and boil, and you're trying to hold the lid
Yeah.
on, trying to hold everything together because there's nothing really wrong. So why
Right.
am I holding? Why do I feel like I'm holding so much when there's nothing really that bad going on?
Yeah. And it turns out it's just a lot of little things that pile up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
for example, like with my family, I have four kids. I have a 27-year-old. I have one who's about to be 21 and twins that are 18. They can do the biggest stuff and I don't get upset about it, but it's the
mm,
little stuff that just piles on. And my kids and I have a great relationship, and they will make fun of me at the drop of a dime because of
yeah,
some of the behaviors I have sometimes. But I have this thing where if my I hold it in and I hold
mm,
it in and I hold it in, and I keep my tongue to myself, and then eventually I lose my shit and everything starts coming out. It just starts piling up, and I just start
yeah,
anything that I can grab at to be
yeah,
mad about suddenly is back on my radar. Like all the stuff I ignored for weeks is suddenly just pouring out of me, and it
yeah,
happens with my wife as well, where I'll do that to her, and I'm sure she does it to me, but I'm probably the worst
mm,
offender in this case. And I guess micro traumas would be the word for it, or complex traumas like you're talking
yeah,
about. And there's a saying, and I was trying to look it up while we were talking there a second ago. It's it's when you're there's two ends of the spectrum, good enough and bad enough. So bad enough is things are bad enough to leave, things are good enough where you want to stay. But most people live somewhere in between the two of those, where things aren't bad enough to leave, but they're not good enough to want to stay, and you wind up getting probably all these complex traumas throughout the relationships.
yeah. And I think that when your nervous system is constantly like, I think what I found is being nice can be really destructive. So
Yeah,
if somebody says something, you go, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I'll let it go."
right.
Or, "Oh, they didn't mean it. I'll just let it go. Doesn't matter. I'll just let it go." And you've got
Yeah,
these little resentments that are just building in your rucksack or backpack, and they
yeah,
suddenly get heavier and heavier and heavier until actually, no, they really all do matter. And like you said, then they come out bang, 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 bang.
yeah.
But what I found is, and I made a promise to myself, is that if I feel my nervous system feels upset, and it took me a
Right.
long time because I couldn't even, I was just emotionally numb, I suppose. But if now I
Yeah.
can get sense, I'm not feeling okay. I need to have a conversation with this within at least 48 hours. Because if I
Okay.
don't, then it will add, like you said, it adds in and adds in and adds in. So,
Exactly.
but it,
And if you don't set the parameters on how you want to be treated, it becomes the
yeah,
norm.
yeah,
Yeah. Like for example,
and
and this
then,
isn't a relationship thing, but my daughter started a new job
yeah,
and she worked like the first week and she did her training and everything and she had a set schedule. And then all of a sudden the boss is calling her like, "Hey, you need to work tomorrow." Like just changing the schedule and telling her what to do. And she had just started
mhm,
working here. And I said to her, I said, "You need to pull this boss to the side and tell them that you're not whenever he needs you an employee, like set your schedule, set the parameters, and then from there on he'll understand that he needs to communicate with you versus telling you what you're going to do." And that parlays over in the regular parts of relationships as well. But you let those micro and complex things just keep building and building and building, and then before you know it, it's like Mount St. Helens, which was that's a
yeah,
big volcano that was in the United States. Everything blows
yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, I'm very familiar with volcanoes because I used to live in Iceland. And
Oh, okay.
they used to go quite incredibly.
A- And when you
Um,
were in your previous relationships,
mm,
were you unaware of these things that you know now? And looking back, when you see that those relationships, there was probably a lot of moments where you could have course corrected.
yeah,
Okay.
there was a few things right from the beginning. I mean, for me, and this is where it goes about to self-knowledge. I didn't know how I wanted to be loved.
Okay.
And when I found out what my main values were to be loved and was unwilling to
Yeah.
compromise them. And so that means I was, when I was finding, when I found my partner now, I was terrified. I did not want to have any physical intimacy or anything. I didn't want to be my mind to be swayed and just go into the
Sure.
fun and the excitement. And I was like, no, I'm not going there. It's too painful.
Well, because that'll make you stupid. It's done it to me a million times in my life
Yeah,
where,
yeah,
like it's like you see two cars on a parking lot. One looks like it drives real fast, right? That's the one you want to drive, but it may not necessarily ride the same way you want it to. And
exactly. And you
and,
can have
and
it spin around the car park. It's great.
yeah, but a lot of times you don't get that option. You buy like without looking at the MSRP on the side of it, and you drive it off the lot, and you drive it for a few weeks, and you're like, oh, I got a lemon, right? And that's really what that's what happens.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when did you start to have the self-discovery of how you like to be loved and how you want to be loved and how you decided on the parameters of how you want others to treat you?
Yeah, I think the thing was is when I realized I was the problem.
Okay.
And a lot of the time I was probably in a bit of a victim mode. They're like this, they're doing this to me. How could they treat me to me? I try to be as good as I
Yeah.
can be to them. I commit to them. I give them everything that I can emotionally within my kind of naivety. And
Yeah.
and I just felt that I was always being treated really badly. But I was actually just part of a dance. We were doing a dance and we both relied on each
Okay.
other's way of working. And when I realized my part within the dance, I was like, oh, right, I've got to change.
Is that a tough
Uh,
moment?
yeah, it is one because have this story that you've been choosing people that are causing you so much grief, and then you're like,
Yeah.
hold up, if I keep on choosing the same type, who's the one with the issue?
Oh,
So,
okay. So you had a type that you liked,
yeah, a
and you
personality
were you
type.
were
Yeah,
getting consistent results from that other side, but
yeah,
thinking it was thinking it was them that was causing the issues. In reality, you were much more of a part of it than you were aware of.
yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
that's where I could actually do something about it. Before, I
Okay.
was always, why can't they change? If they could be like this, we'd be so much happier. And I was like, I don't get the
Yeah.
fundamental that I need. And this is especially, I don't know if it's male stereotypes, but to say the word, like one of my partners was very tall and one was very small. Not, but you think, and I'm quite a tall guy, and to think that I
Yeah.
have fear towards somebody who's small, like quite smaller and physically weaker than me, I would just like not allow that into
Yeah.
my head. It's like I'm not scared of that person physically, but my nervous
Right.
system was doing like on high alert, constantly on high alert. Like going
Like
home, I didn't
walking
want
on
to put the
eggshells all the
key.
time.
Yeah, didn't want to put the key into the key door. Didn't want to go home. It's like pushing myself to these places.
Wow.
So I had to really take a step
Yeah.
back and go, I'm not okay. I don't feel emotionally safe in this relationship. And
Yeah.
and especially because like we mentioned before, like the training, like type of stuff that we did and that kind of, I don't know, doing sports and that whole thing of this kind of strengthening the body, but I'm terrified.
Yeah.
So it was facing my own
Yeah. Okay.
fear and going, how do I feel safe in a relationship emotionally and take the courage to go, I'm not okay in this relationship. In
Yeah.
relationship, they find them more painful. I actually prefer being out of them than in them because they're too painful.
Wow.
So I stuck myself into codependency for 2 years,
Hmm.
and that was the beginning of it. I understood. that I
Wow.
struggled with codependency, and I had a typical kind of pattern with codependency. I
Well, a
studied.
lot of us in relationships as well, everybody wants to appear to the world that they're the perfect one, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Like when you're in a relationship, whenever I complain about my wife, and I do it
mm.
often with my friends, to the point sometimes they don't allow me to speak about it after the first 5 minutes I'm hanging out with them. And I always have to throw in that the fact that I understand I'm not perfect and I'm not wonderful and I'm just as guilty of anything else, but I just need to vent sometimes. But it took me a long
Yeah,
time to realize, like you're saying, that more often than not, I'm probably part of the problem.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also that
So
thing
so when you
about,
have this self-realization, is it a tough? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh yes, I think there's a slight
Go ahead.
lag, isn't there? But
Yeah.
uh, what was your question? Sorry, I missed.
I know we're having technical difficulties a little bit because your screen had frozen a few times, and I'll edit this part out. To have that realization that you are part of the problem and you're not always the solution.
Yeah, and I think when you start to, and this is what I thought, when I was like, okay, I'm the problem. I need to change. Now I know enough that changing behavior is not an easy process to do. So it means a real commitment,
Yeah.
consistency. And if there's something I learned from
Hmm.
the dance industry, if you want to get better, you've got to work on it every single day. And you've got to just dedicate yourself and go
Yeah.
again and again and again and again and just slowly mold into another shape if that's what you want to do. So I thought I have to do that with my internal self. I've done all this
Right.
external training. I need to take that same dedication and turn it inwards and start understanding and forming my internal behaviors in a way that are kind of the foundation for me to be loved in the way that I want to be loved.
Okay. And where do you start with that? Especially if it's not a realm that you're already dealing in. Like you'll I'll meet a lot of people and they're already in some sort of self-improvement phase and then they start working on certain parts. But if you're starting from scratch, which is what it sounds like for you, like, where do you start? Do you join some sort of program? Do you talk to somebody? Because there's the problem with self-help is there's so many options and it's almost
Yeah.
overwhelming to the point where like why start?
Yeah. I think for me, it was, I did the codependency first, which was just understanding my
Hmm.
emotions and that kind of group talk. And it was very interesting to sit in there and they're going, so how are you feeling today? And I was like, I feel like I'm in some comedy sketch or something. I was like, yeah, and everyone claps you after you've spoken. And I was just like, this is just weird. But it
Right.
really helped me um, start to be vulnerable with my emotional state. And then
Okay.
the next major point was mindfulness training. So I studied mindfulness, and that was a shock of the internal negative voices that I had. The
Hmm.
uh, the what I was saying to myself, if I was saying that to another human being, I'd probably be arrested for abuse. I'm
Wow.
stupid. I'm a loser. All these things that
So you were
that
super
would,
hard on yourself.
yeah. And some places it really works because it gets me to
Yeah.
a standard of being a specialist in areas. But in a
Sure.
relationship, this is not good. And so I changed my internal dialogue. I became more aware of how I was feeling through mindfulness in moment to moments instead of always in the future. My
Right.
mind's in the future a lot. Creativity, I disappear and I start creating. So I brought myself to the present moment and really started to live in the present moment, be aware of how I was feeling, how I was interacting with others. So that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And then I did, and like you said, there's so many stuff out there, but this is what worked for me. It's like you try different things and something clicks, and you go, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
dedicate myself into that one. The next one
Sure.
was uh, loving communication, non-violent communication, that our words,
Hmm.
the language, and in NLP, which I studied well, you become very aware of your linguistic structure and the words actually say to people, not even realizing can be violent.
Okay.
And so you're getting reactions without even realizing that what you've just given, what you just offered up, is a
Right.
generalization, is blaming, is judging, is diagnosing, is all these different formats of speaking that we've been
Right.
brought up with, set up other people's guards. So very quickly you can get into a battle of words and nobody realizes why they
Sure.
got there. So I
No,
understand
and
the
it's
linguist.
interesting that you say that because I watched my parents doing that as I grew up, and
Mm,
occasionally I fall into that same kind of a thing. And maybe a month ago, maybe not even that. I looked at my wife. She said something to me, or I said, anytime I'm getting out of control, just say the word blue steel because that's a nickname in one of my chat groups. And
right.
she's like, I refuse to do it. Like when I'm arguing for no reason, I
Yeah.
want her to say blue steel, and she refused.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2 days later, I'm sitting in the kitchen with my 18-year-old son and my 21-year-old son, and she starts on me on something. And I look at her and I go, blue steel. She's like, you can't say that to me. So I just said it. But she knew exactly what it was. And my
Yeah.
son looks at me and he goes, what's blue steel? I said, anytime I start arguing with your mom for no reason, and like maybe I'm in a mood or whatever, if she just says blue steel to me, it'll settle me down for a second because it gives me a click to be mindful in the moment and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. So I tell him that, and like 2 seconds later, they're both yelling blue steel at her. And then a couple minutes later, I'm starting about something and they're yelling blue steel at me. And I've heard nothing but blue steel every day for weeks, but it seems to work. But I fall into those moments where it's like I'm unleashing for no reason and not on like a major level, but just enough to just poke the other person
Yeah.
and just kind of get under each other's skin. And I don't know why that happens, but it's something that I'm getting better at. And
Yeah.
and it's one of those things like you're talking about where like it's the way you talk to somebody, it's the
Mm,
way my tone is, and sometimes I don't the way I'm taken by the other person, my wife, isn't necessarily what I mean. Right?
yeah.
I may mean something in a joking way, but to her it comes across as something else negative I might be saying.
Yeah.
And so we have misunderstandings on what the actual term, like how we interact with each other because of that. And it's kind of that same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, humor is something I go into it actually a bit in my book is about different types of humor
Hmm.
and where if it's not agreed on, humor can actually be quite destructive.
Yeah,
Or humor can, if it's agreed on together, it can be amazing bond between two people.
sure.
And it's that thing about when banter becomes bullying, that kind of that shift.
Okay. Yeah.
And when is it something that is shared, and when it's something that you actually it's an undercover way of putting somebody else down, but then it's
Yeah.
just done with a so humor I find very interesting as a very delicate way of oh we're
Sure.
just saying it for a laugh,
Right. But
but
there's always
what's
something behind it.
what's the intention? And if you
Yeah.
go right to the intention, was I annoyed? Was I irritated? What was the
Yeah.
intent behind what I was doing? And and when we start to realize that, we can actually go, oh, actually, I was sometimes just
Right.
lack of sleep. I'm exhausted and I
Yeah.
just can't hold it together today. And sorry about that. It was just I wasn't thinking. Even just
Yeah. So you're learning this in your group that you're part of is like, hey, the tone of my words, the things I say, they all have much more meaning than maybe what I actually mean and
yeah,
how they're accepted from the other person.
yeah. And this is
Wow.
where it's going. It's almost like your body almost becomes like an instrument. So your tuning, how you
Yeah.
tune it, is like if you go and play a violin and you just go, it's gonna be awful. But when you listen, what the sounds,
Yeah.
the tones that you choose, when your emotional self and your words become like an instrument, and how you're playing it and the intention
Hmm.
behind your expression means the difference of how you actually resonate with another human being. But when we just go, oh, whatever, and we just go and we just da, da, da,
Right.
the damage that can be done
Yeah.
for some relationships is irreversible because it just over years it
Right.
just slowly just erodes. For some people, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. They're just like that. And like you got with the blue steel, white flag, blue steel, everyone goes, okay, we
Yep.
get it. Okay, not a great day. And it can, so it's not about having arguments, it's how you repair from them, how you, because sometimes
Hmm.
it just doesn't go well. But how do you then repair
Yeah.
from that and take responsibility
Right.
and find a way home to that sense where you feel connected again?
Yeah. And these were all skills you didn't have in previous relationships, or maybe not skills you didn't have. You weren't aware of how to control those behaviors. Does that sound more
Yeah,
accurate?
and I think what was interesting, what my confusion was, in the outside world, I did have them within friendships,
Yes.
within work, within in my general life. I'm the calm guy that is you can rely on to keep when everything kicks off,
Yeah.
that everything's going to be fine. But because, and this is why I said attracted to the trauma, because of certain triggers that I had, I would numb
Hmm.
myself to protect myself emotionally, and I wouldn't express how I felt. Like you said about the guy at work with your daughter, I would have no problem talking to my boss
Yeah.
and going,
Right.
and I have done, and I've gone like, this isn't the way we're not working, and it doesn't get the best out of me. You want the best out of me. This is what works for me, and I have no problem with that.
Right.
But in my relationship, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's like two different people sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And it is.
Yeah.
One's
And
one's
I
apart.
find that as well. A lot of the times, like the things I will say to the people that are part of my family and the people I love, I would never say to a stranger because I wouldn't
Mm.
want to hurt that person's feelings. But
Yeah.
for some reason, it comes out of my mouth with the people I love, and it doesn't make any sense because I'm not guarded with people outside of my family. I'm the same
Mm.
guy, but people will describe me as much more laid back, chill, whatever, and then my family might describe me a whole different way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's tough because I will sometimes unleash and say those things, and I'm not good at the part you're just talking about where I repair it after the conversation. Kind of
Mm.
just sits there sometimes and it'll linger.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
So
something
the skills that you're suddenly aware of, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, go on. It got
Oh, your
glitchy again.
screen's locked. Yeah, and if I interrupt you for any second, it's because the connection is going. So
Yeah, I'm the
I'm
same.
trying to
I've got
throw
like
something in
this.
there every now and
Yeah.
then because your screen is locking up. And you're what, in the UK?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the place called the
So
Forest of Dean.
yes. So I apologize if I'm interrupting you at any points. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So you learn these skills and you start working on yourself, and
Yeah.
you're attending a group that you're not quite comfortable with, it sounds like initially, and then you kind of grow into the comfort of allowing yourself to express yourself in front of strangers.
Yeah, that was at the beginning. I moved on from them. I was there for
Hmm.
just 2 years, and then I kind of grew in a different direction. But it was a good foundation just um,
Okay.
to to start to figure out what was going on. And yeah, and I think it was when I that thing about being nice can be destructive was another huge
Hmm.
learning lesson for me, because I like being nice, I like helping out, and but I didn't realize that
Yeah.
when it gets too much, I'm actually not taking my own needs into account, and it's not a shared relationship.
You're sacrificing your happiness for someone else's.
Yeah, and then I feel bitter, but I'm bitter because I didn't have the courage to go, I'm not willing to sacrifice this. I would go, oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter. And then it just builds up and builds up as resentment. And then I
Yeah.
can't express myself emotionally because I've got resentment sitting inside me. And it's very hard to
Hmm.
love fully when you resent somebody. It's just a different,
Yes.
you can get your hormones can kick off and you can get all sexual and everything, and it's all fine. But when we're talking about
Yeah.
that sense of a deeper love, a kind of that that sense of safety and intimacy and vulnerability that only two people know
Yeah.
when they're that close, that gets hindered when it gets a sense of being on guard.
Hmm. And for you were mentioning that you refrained from the physical part in your new relationship. Was it was it because you wanted to focus on the mental part and have all that established before you took that next step? Because in all honesty, like, we're guys, and
Mm.
whenever and I'll say it this way, she might throw some sex at me every now and then to calm me down. And it's the other 23 hours and 57 minutes of the day that are the problem. And I'll forget about whatever's bothering me, but it's a band-aid a lot of the time,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
physical part of it.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. I think that's the that I think that you've said it. It's a band-aid is really a great way of saying it, because it's you've almost got like oxytocin flooding your system, the kind of
Hmm.
softness in your hormones that just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's being cared for, somebody appreciates me, and being physically open can really get that overload of appreciation and that
Yeah.
kind of that connection. But it's not dealing with this that deep sense within the nervous system if it feels safe or not. It calms it for a
Right.
moment, and then it's back. And it's almost like if you're going through different neighborhoods down the street. It's
Hmm.
like sometimes you're going to walk down a neighborhood, you feel quite okay, and other times you're going to be watching your back. What's going on here? And in
Yeah.
your own home, you can have that feeling. Sometimes everything feels fine, and next, like, am I going to be emotionally attacked here? Am I on guard? Am I not guard? Is someone
Sure.
to give me a hard time for this? And though we're not allowed a lot of the time to acknowledge that discomfort that's going on in the system. And so
Right.
understanding and knowing it, even being knowing it's there, can be huge. I'm not feeling okay
Yeah,
right now.
because then you can address it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
and
where the
so you're
language,
making these emotional jumps where you're starting to, it sounds like a lot of this is becoming more in tune with yourself first before you become in tune with someone else.
yeah. I'd like to think it, because there is something that can happen when we only look at ourselves, that it gets a bit individualized,
Yeah.
that there is a sense that it's um the growth happens in relationship and with yourself and other and with yourself and
Hmm.
other. So it's not so much about going into a corner and meditating and then closing everything else, that there is huge learning in that co-regulation with somebody else, how you get that, what that means, and when it goes well, how that feels good, and the system knowing this actually feels really good. When I get it right,
Yeah.
I feel amazing. And so the system would go, I want more of that. So I will, when I'm upset or not okay, I will express myself. But this is the other thing. We're not really, like you said with your parents, like they're at each other,
Hmm.
and you saw that pattern. And my parents were constantly at each other. So when, as young children, we don't have great role models a lot of the time of what a
No.
loving communication is.
Yeah.
So
I always say that my parents never taught me about love. and how to love, because I don't think they understood it either. And
Yeah.
I'm still not quite sure if they do.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with the parents. And, if you have a stable set of parents, and my parents were great, but they weren't right for each other. And,
Mm.
and all the things we're talking about, they probably could have the behaviors that we see. And
Mm.
those become part of our norm and how we interact with other people. And it's kind of like somebody who's an alcoholic, right? You grow up in
Mm.
an alcoholic home. When you meet somebody who grew up in an alcoholic home, there's usually two different options. Either they don't drink at all because they don't want to be like the person that the people they were surrounded by growing up, or they're exactly like them, right? And you have a choice.
Yeah.
And it's not so obvious on the love side of the kind of choices you need to make. Like alcohol, okay, I drink it or I don't drink it. Relationship wise, there's so many minuscule things that go on all throughout the course of the relationship. You can't, it's hard to identify what to turn on and what to turn off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the hard part, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. And because we don't have a culture of internal investigation, really, things are more external. So it is easier to see the
Yeah.
behavior externally because that's what we focus on. So I don't drink um, because I've just seen in my life from my
Okay.
friend,
I
my
don't
own,
either.
yeah, and it doesn't, I don't enjoy it in my system. And um, but I think what you said was a very good description of it. It's harder to see um, what's going on with inside ourselves. And when we
Yeah.
do, the pain starts to stop. And that's almost a tragedy within
Yes.
itself. And because our culture, we look at our culture at the
And
moment.
why is that?
Um, sorry, that jumped a bit.
That, like, learning that about yourself.
Could you just repeat that bit? Sorry.
You had mentioned that figuring out a certain part of it is a bit of a tragedy in its own, is just realizing that that's part of it.
Yeah, I think we're becoming more and more external in our gratification,
Hmm.
and depression seems to be getting worse,
Sure.
and suicides are getting higher. And I don't know if this is the case, but the statistics look really scary. And the what when I work with some people that maybe have certain addictions or something, there's a real sense of trying to fill a hole in with something else. And the journey to
Okay.
go and if you've got the guide to support that, you can start to untangle some of those little traumas that have happened years and years and years and years that are just building up. And but going back
Yeah.
to relationships and learning to grow with somebody else, I think understanding language is so important because what some people do is they go, "Oh, this is how I feel, and I'm going to tell you because it's the truth. This is how I
Hmm.
feel." And then the language becomes uh, bullying in
Right.
itself because they found themselves, and I'm not going to have this anymore, so I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to
Okay.
attack to protect myself.
Yeah. Right. And I
And when,
protect myself at all costs.
yes, yeah, because I find out what's happened here and I've been bullied, and right, that's not going to happen again. And unfortunately, what sometimes happens is that it comes back with the same energy. So you can be
Yes.
very firm with someone. You can be angry with somebody without blaming them. You can express anger without it
Yeah.
being violent. So if somebody's being angry and say, I'm so angry right now, I'm
Sure.
so upset, or they go, you really piss me off, I've had enough of you. Just one is a violent act and one is an expression of an energy that's overwhelming you.
Yeah.
But
It-
so
It's
often,
okay. One's a signal and says, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," and the other one
yeah,
is not a signal. It's the after the signal. There is no. It's the fight or flight part. Like
yeah,
if I there are times where I'll walk into the house and I'll be in a mood, and I'll say to my wife, I'm like, "Now's not the time. Just give me 5 minutes to get into the house and just decompress from what I just went through 5 minutes ago at work. Just
yeah,
give me a minute before you want to talk to me about whatever it is." And if I'm in a bad mood and she comes at me hard about something, like immediately I fire back. And it's not intentional. It's just
yeah,
I'm not in the mindset and I haven't wrapped my head around the moment of where I am in my headspace so I can react. You're talking about saying, okay, I'm angry about this, or screaming I'm angry about it. It's I'm angry both situations, but one is the way I present is much more threatening.
yeah, yeah,
Froze up
and
on me
can
again.
trigger past memories.
Yes. And then and those memories from even if it's previous relationships will
Yeah,
cause you to react a certain way based on how you were treated in the past.
yeah,
And when I say all these things and I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to make sense of it in my head. It already makes sense for you. I'm trying to make sense for me
yeah,
and
yeah,
relate it into terms that would make sense for me when I think about it.
yeah.
The way you present the how I feel about myself or the moment carries a lot more weight than people think.
Yes. And I think what happens is there, and this is where co-regulation,
Hmm.
uh, like, you said, like with the blue steel.
Yeah.
So there are um, there are challenges in the way that you did that that can cause conflict.
Right.
But your intention behind it was to create peace in the relationship.
Yeah.
And this is where it um, we unintentionally sometimes get ourselves into conflict. So the
Hmm.
intention is from the heart saying, okay, sometimes I'm losing it a bit and just give me a signal, I'll get it, I'll snap out, and that means everything's
Yeah.
okay. But there's a possibility by you telling her what the key word is and not agreeing it together and seeing and asking if it's okay and putting it out there, what word should we use? Is this,
Right.
would this work for you if when I'm in a state? Because she may be, I don't know what the situation is. She may be scared and can't
Sure.
say the word. But
Yeah.
so what with an idea, you put it on the table and go, I've got this idea because I'm having this issue. I want to see if I can shift this behavior. What would it be
Yeah.
for you if we used a signal? And she goes, oh, what do you mean by a signal? So I was thinking maybe blue steel. How does that work for you? That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
How about this one? And you use together, you decide something that
Right.
works.
And immediately ours got abused because
Yeah.
now we're using it more than we should. It's not always in the appropriate moment when it should be used, or when my kids say it,
Yeah.
like when they're trying to point out that we're arguing about something stupid.
Yeah. But they also may be they may be using it also to go, I don't actually like it when you argue.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use this to just put even if it's used in comedy or something may be going on that it's bouncing off each other. Everyone's
Yes.
bouncing, but the intention behind it was like, okay, there's something not quite right with the way sometimes I'm communicating,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try and find a way to solve that. And that's just happens with sometimes situations like that. Then she goes, it's going to be blue skill. I don't want it to be blue skill. And then
Right.
boom.
She She didn't want to use it, and now we're using
Yeah,
it just because
yeah,
I threw it out into the universe in front of
yeah,
other people.
yeah. You want to use this? All right, I'll use it. Oh, you make a joke of
Okay.
it. Oh, okay, we'll make a joke, and then you've got yourself in
Yeah.
and
So
something
the
that
reaction that it was meant to provoke is no longer the reaction it was meant to provoke.
yeah,
It's something
but
else.
it came, if I understand it right, it came from a very vulnerable place.
100%.
It came from a place where I want to stay connected in my family home, and there's times when I'm not feeling connected.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability has been turned into a joke or a play or a pointing or a. And so I'm not saying this happens to you, but what happens is the system goes, well, what's the point?
Right.
And just goes, just shut it off. I'll just forget about it. Let's just get on with how
Yeah.
it is. Let's just keep I don't care,
Well,
whatever.
I can tell you where it got brought into the conversation. We had a blowout about something else, and it was something dumb and completely my fault. And I was like, I need to go apologize. And that's where the conversation started. I said, I understand that I was picking at you or starting with you for no reason because I was aggravated about something else. And this is what I would like you to do to help control me. I didn't need it for her. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't something that I needed to use for her, but the fact that she decided not to use it for me gave me permission in my head to just use it for her. And in
yeah.
reality, it came from a good spot and
Mm,
it turned out to be the opposite. And now it's a tool for me to point out something.
yeah,
So, yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and I didn't think about that for a second until we just had this conversation. I talk about every one of my podcasts. I have a conversation with somebody. There's a moment where I'm like, I'm that guy, and I'm that guy right now. So yeah, so I appreciate it. Keep continuing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, no. I find it something like that I found really interesting because it comes from a really loving place, fundamentally.
Yes,
And sometimes then that gets lost in the noise. And
yes,
um and when you said it was my fault, I was really annoyed about something, but it wasn't you, is a very interesting question. Or was there something that you want to express in the relationship that you haven't talked about in a loving way that does bother you and it comes up when you're
yeah.
irritated?
It's
So,
buried in there, 100%. It's deep in there too. Like there are moments that I might be angry about something she did 5 years ago, and it'll
yeah,
just pop itself out, and I'll
yeah,
pull it out in the middle of anger. Like, and this is kind of a dumb story, but about maybe 10 years ago, I had a blue car, and she had a
mm,
gray car. She had a gray minivan, and I always park on the left side of the driveway, so when she pulls in, she'll be on the right side. I get out of my car at 7-Eleven, which is like a convenience store. And for
mm,
whatever reason, I had to walk around that side of my car. And there's a gray streak from bumper to bumper down the side of my car. Right. And I
mm.
hit my car and just dragged it down the side and never said anything to me. My camera just chipped in right when I waved my hand there. And I look at her every now and then when I'm arguing with her, I'll just pull it out of nowhere. I'm like, did you hit my car? Like I'll just throw it out there for no reason because in my mind, I'm still angry about the car from like 10
Yeah,
years ago. And I have so
yeah,
many little things like you seem like a very sharp guy and quick-witted and I'm the same and I don't forget anything. And for whatever reason, when I need something to be hurtful, it's always at my fingertips. And I
mm,
hate it because it's a crazy feature I have that's amazing in arguments with when I need it just to end an argument, but it never helps the argument itself.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, you win the argument, but what have you lost?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think we were going to, this is going to be a therapy section for me. I thought
No,
we were
no,
going to
no.
learn about your book, but it's
Yes.
funny because
Yeah. No, yeah, no, am I doing too much? Because I do get very intrigued by
no, I love this.
yeah.
I
No,
absolutely love this. I love having conversations because as words come out of my mouth, they make more sense than what's in my head sometimes because
Yeah.
stuff will be bouncing around, and the second I put actual words behind things, they have more weight to them, more gravity, they make more sense. And as we're talking, these things are coming out, and I'm freely expressing them. You're not even asking, but I'm
Mm.
associating the things that you're saying with some of my behaviors. So, like whatever you're doing, it's amazing because it's just happening on its own. It's a crazy.
Yeah, I
So
mean, because
as you're learning these skills and abilities, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, no, sorry, gone.
You started to say something, I interrupted, and then I just did it again. It's that there's like a 3 second delay sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was just because these things I find when you share your stories, I find that
Hmm.
they're such good stories that so many people struggle with. And
Yeah.
it's like things with the car is the question, which I find very interesting, is when she scraped the car, what kind of a communication environment do you have that couldn't be talked about? What is going on
Probably
there?
at the time we had 4 young kids. Yeah, we had 4 young kids and we were under a lot of pressure, like schedule wise. We were always trading
Mm,
off. Like she would work nights, I would work days. We would have like a few minutes together every day, and life was stressful at the time.
yeah,
And, there would be a tendency that the stress would build up and we would release it on each other at various
yeah,
times. And in reality, that was probably the case now that you're saying is that didn't want to present it to me because of how I may react due to whatever stresses were in my life at the time.
yeah. And then also the question goes then, how comes you weren't able to bring it up with her? You both weren't able to bring it
Right.
up.
Yeah. And see, I'm still not sure if she hit my let it go because all of the evidence kind of added up to, hey, you hit my car.
Yeah.
So
But
it's tough. Yeah.
yeah,
And so you learn these skills once you start connecting with yourself, that really I am and the things that make me tick. And I've only really gotten in tune with myself in the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years. And I'm not saying I was a horrible person my entire life, but what I'm saying is I'm more mindful of who I am and how I am. And
yeah,
it's only been something in the last 5 or 6 years where I've really taken a moment to connect with myself and the the other, let's say, 40 some years of my life, I just kind of just went through my day.
mm,
And part of your process was that learning to connect with, yeah, like you talked about being external on everything. Once you start becoming internal, like things and like behaviors and the way I act and the how I treat others starts to make more sense of why, where it was
yeah,
just pouring out of me before, but now when I look inward, it's different.
yeah, yeah. And it's really difficult to look at the shadows within yourself. And
Yeah.
I find them terrifying. I did at times find them terrifying to look at them. But it's one of those things is when I think when you go internally, it needs to be with compassion.
Yeah.
So
Towards yourself.
yeah, everyone's has in their life, they're doing the best they can with what they've got. And
Yeah.
it's their kindness when you find out stuff about yourself that isn't what externally may not seem that really that nice. I see it
Hmm.
almost like a child within yourself. You care about it, you look after it, you nurture it. You don't go, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's just rubbish. You're just terrible person," or "How could you do that?" It's no, there's a reason why that was happening. You're protecting yourself against something that felt not okay. And
Yeah.
how do you look after that part of yourself? And it was all right. I see why you what you were doing. I see you how looking after me, but you don't need to be like this anymore. I can take care of it
Yeah.
now. So there's a sense of kindness within your own system. And
Right.
sometimes people go in and they go, "Oh, I'm awful. How could I have done that?" It's like you have to be, if you want that to resonate outside, you also have to put the
Yeah.
kindness inside.
Yes. And like I heard a saying a few weeks ago, it was like a list of things you should do. And one of them was parent your inner child.
Yeah, yeah,
And I that saying never made sense to me before because I'm very compassionate with my kids in regards to things, but I'm
mhm,
hard on myself on the same things.
yeah,
And I find that when I internalize, I'm very brutal to myself
yeah,
about why I do things. And when I've softened it over the last few years, I've had better control of it because my reaction over my entire life has been, if somebody tells you not to do something, I'm going to do it, right? Because
yeah,
you're not going to tell me what to do. And it's the same when I'm talking to myself and I'm like, you can't behave this way. You shouldn't do this. And my inside says, F you, I'm going to do it. And,
yeah,
like there's no
yeah,
agreement on how we should interact with each other. And I mean by interact with each other, meaning myself with myself.
yeah. Even say yourself with yourselves,
Yes.
because there's
Yeah.
younger ones, there's older ones, there's aggressive ones, there's protector ones, there's loving ones, there's like it's a circus, a family of many different types of personalities in there, and they
Yes.
need leadership from a kind, loving person. And
Yeah. And they don't get it all the time.
no, no,
I love the idea of what you're saying right now, where, you know, there's as much as you externalize and show compassion and kindness to yourself and allow yourself your failures and sufferings and learn from them, but be a better mentor to yourself. Does that
yeah,
make any sense what I'm saying?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
Okay. That's what I'm gathering from this conversation, and I
yeah,
appreciate that you're sharing it. It makes sense to me.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
so as you're learning how to parent yourself or interact with yourself and be kind to your own self, that starts to externalize itself.
yeah, it's very hard when you're not in a good space to
Hmm.
suddenly spend most of the days going, "You're rubbish, you're no good, uh, pull yourself
Yeah.
together, get your," and then somebody's in front of you, all that internal dialogue, out it comes. But if you're spending the day going, "It's
Yeah.
okay, you're trying your best, let's keep it going, let's see how you're doing. You don't need to push forward now. I've got this. You don't need to come out with anger and protect me. I'm
Right.
taking control now. We're going to do it with communication, and I'm going to get the result. I know you need a certain result. I'm not going to back down, but we don't need to use the anger right now. I'm just letting you know I'm
Yeah.
not backing down." So they give them security in there because
Okay.
in the past, that softer self, it might have gone, "Well, you're not getting anything done here. I'm taking over." And so it gets to
Yeah.
a point where you go, "Oh no, I've got this. You don't need to come forward. I've got this." And just like you said, mentoring them, looking after them. So when it kicks off somewhere else,
Hmm.
it's not happening. I'm not saying that we're human and there's some days where it just we
Yeah.
lose it, but we can
Yeah.
reduce
You can only be so
the
good some days. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Let's say you have 10 flare ups or outbursts a week. You get that down to
yeah,
three. It's pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah,
And then if you
yeah,
get control
exactly.
and that three becomes your constant, before you know it, you can get it down to two. And then next thing you know, you're getting it down
Yeah,
to one.
yeah.
And maybe at some point you have full control, but I don't think we all ever get to that point. You just get better
No,
at like practice. You mentioned practice at the beginning of the conversation.
yeah,
Practice does not make perfection. It makes improvement. Like
yeah,
there's perfection is a very, very hard thing to get to. And
yeah,
and
yeah,
so you learn these things about yourself as you, separate, 'cause, 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 'c yourself from these two initial relationships where it didn't quite work. Where do you go from that, and how do we start to get towards writing a book that make people better at relationships? Because like it's like almost like you it. I always describe the world like, and I don't, you don't have the store called Spencer's over in your place, but in the United States we have a store called Spencer's, and it's kind of like a novelty store. They sell shirts and posters and all kinds of stuff. But they have you may remember the digital posters. Like it's just pixels on like the poster,
Mm.
and you kind of stare at it for a little bit and you don't see anything and you relax
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
your eyes. And next thing you know, you see the lighthouse up in the corner, and then you see the boat
yeah. The
down in the other spot.
dolphins.
It's kind of like life, right?
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
yes, and before you know it, the things that you see, you can't unsee, and they're always a part of you. And I feel like that becomes more part of who I am, the more aware of these behaviors I
yeah,
acknowledge.
yeah. And I going to the external side, I remember, like, say if I was practicing turning pirouettes
Yeah,
and I spent years so I could then do 5 pirouettes or something. But every day
right.
I have to get up and I have to get my balance into place. I have to get my alignment into place. And some days are slightly off and I don't know why it's off. And then the next day they're fine and they're back again. But like you said, with perfection,
Yeah,
it every day I have to realign myself. And I think emotionally in the nervous system is
okay,
waking up every day and going, okay, how am I feeling? What's going on for me? What am I tired? Am I hungry? Just even those bare things, what does that mean within my system? What's my relate if I'm angry, what is it that I'm angry about? So it just doesn't become this sheet of just expression. Is there's something specific that is irritating me that I need
yeah,
to focus on and deal with. And and then some days you're just not okay and you can't do it as well. And other days you're just like, wow, because of the way
yeah,
I communicated, I have what I desire in life and it's gone well. And that compounds on itself. Those results make you want that type of communication
right.
more than the other.
Yeah, you almost start to like to crave it, where it
Yeah.
become and it's not an addiction of sorts, but it's a better feeling, and it's something that makes you feel good, and the more you engage in it, the more it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and so where does playfulness come into all this? Like we've mentioned a little bit, like how that playfulness is presented to folks, and what initially might seem funny. Like I always say to people all the time, like the stuff that my wife loved about me when we got together, that my comedy, my sense of humor, the things that made her laugh, they don't make her laugh anymore.
Mm,
And
mm,
probably part of that is how it's presented. Because where, let's say 50-50 split, sometimes I might say something that's funny with bad intention. And the other time it's just plain old being funny, but they all become the same after a while.
yeah. Lovely question. I love that. That's something that I'm really love to get into. Um, there's a few things I mentioned before about what humor is. And if the person
Yeah.
becomes the victim of your humor, they're not going to feel safe.
Hmm.
So the humor no longer feels
Gotcha.
safe anymore. So if they've been poked, then their nervous
Hmm.
system goes, this is not safe. We got to protect. When humor comes up, it's for me and
Yeah.
shut down. So when it's not, the trigger's still there. Humor
Right.
also there, it's a little bit like the difference between comedy improvisation and stand-up comedy. And this is not the same
Okay.
for everything because stand-up comedy can be great, situational comedy, but I'll just take it as two examples. One
Sure.
talks about what's wrong
Yeah.
with everything and pulls it down, and you laugh at the way they deconstruct it and make people look silly.
Yeah.
The other one is you actually build. You give something to somebody and they go, wow, that's amazing. Here, what about this? Oh, that's funny. Work with this. I can work with that. I can build on
Yeah.
that. Here, work with this. and you just keep on throwing the ball, and it's almost like frisbee. There's no competition. You're just enjoying the
Yeah,
throwing and the catching.
and the improv, you're more laughing at how the person is building on top of the other person's story
Yeah, yeah,
versus watching something, to your point, being fully deconstructed and nitpicked is
yeah,
what it would be in real life for me.
yeah. So one is playing,
Okay.
and that playing means you're listening
Yeah.
and you're giving. And you're giving a present. Um you're not giving sewage in a box or something like that. You're giving something that you think that they may like. But the other
Yeah.
comedy can really can nitpick and pull people down. So if you're giving presents and
Right.
listening to the other person and go, oh, that's what you gave me. I'll work with that. How about this? Oh, yeah, I'll work with that. How about this? And going back to the nervous system, there is a nerve, the vagus nerve, and there's an old part of it, and then there's meant to be a new part
Hmm.
of it, which is the ventral vagus nerve. And that is about, we're constantly scanning the environment, and it's in our face and in our heart and our breath, and it's constantly scanning to see who's safe to communicate with. And when play becomes this sense
Yeah.
of trust and building together, our nervous system starts to feel safe. When we poke, we start to get fight or flight, the sympathetic system, that
Wow.
mobilization that starts to happen. So if it's fun
Yeah.
and you've both agreed that the poking is fine, you can have a
Hmm.
sympathetic system that is active and quite fun, but you take away the safety, that
Yeah.
ventral nerve, and it starts to get raw. And the more raw it gets, and it can't get back to safety, it's going to start to
Yes.
dip down into the old part of the vagus nerve, the dorsal vagus part of the nerve, and that can start to come to immobilization, that kind of depression, that sleepiness. So it loses the
Yeah.
activity and the spark within the relationship. So how we engage with humor is not just a joke. It's actually how we're communicating
No.
with the nervous system.
It's interesting the way you just put that as well, because there are times where, my wife will say something funny but mean to me, and I'll take it the wrong way, and I'll do the same to her. But there are times when we have some playful banter,
Yeah.
and in my head, I'm looking at her and I'm like, that's the person I fell in love with. And in reality, it's me who's doing the I'm reacting the way I should be reacting versus what you were talking about on the other side of it. It's not her acting any different. It's my reaction to the things that she's saying to me. And the reaction I'm trying to get from her is not one of anger or insult or hurt her feelings. I'm saying stuff to get a laugh out of her. And it's
Yeah.
it's literally that improv versus standing up and telling a story and breaking it down. And again, it's another moment for me where I'm like, okay, because like for example, I think it was last Sunday, like we had a banter going back for about I don't know, like 10 minutes in the supermarket. Like, and
Yeah.
people were looking at us and we're just fucking with each other. And excuse my language,
Yeah.
but we're just messing with each other and we're both laughing. And I'm like, we're having a great moment. And then
Yeah.
we get home and like, I changed the way my humor was presented and it turned to the other side and my
Mm.
reaction was different. And in reality, the way I should look at it is how I'm presenting and reacting and not necessarily what she's doing. Does that sound right?
Yeah. And it's in the intention behind what's going on. In the
Yes.
supermarket, you were both
Okay.
agreeing that I'm going to make you laugh by doing this. I'm going to make, if the humor is breaking each other down, you're always got to remember that you're walking on thin ice. If you're using
Yes.
banter to break the other person down, you've both made the agreement. You can do this happens with your mates. It's like everyone's bantering, then somebody says something, goes, "That's not funny," and then suddenly it
Yes.
changes, and then you either have to suppress it or you get irritated. But when you're giving gifts that aren't about pulling somebody else down, you're never on thin ice. You're on solid ground always, because everything you give is a present to the other
Yeah.
person that they want to have. if you pull somebody else down and they pull you down, the banter can work for a while, but there is a risk involved in that as well. But the agreement, if you both agree, brilliant, you can have a great laugh. But always that
Yeah.
awareness of when is it time to stop? How much poking is a
How
bit
do
of
I get
fun
better at
when
that part? How do I get better at knowing when I'm crossing the line? Right? Like, and I understand when I do it, like when I look back in hindsight, I understand where my mind shift was, which made me go from playful banter to mean comments. And it's,
Mm.
trust me, it's not something that happens every day, but it
Yeah,
happens
yeah, yeah.
often enough where, I should be more aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And how do you get better at seeing that the trigger you're about to cause
so
somebody else?
what
Like,
I'm
like,
curious
is it more
about,
mindfulness? Is it spending more time in my own head and figuring it out?
I would always sometimes the head is not the greatest place to be. Sometimes it's the heart. When you start speaking from your heart,
Okay.
with just the attention is coming that you're speaking from your heart, even if it's just a metaphor, will change the way you speak to somebody. When you
Hmm.
speak from your head, you're trying to figure out how to how to either win or to beat this. But when you speak from your heart, it just becomes a very different way of communicating. But I wonder,
Yeah.
what I'm curious about,
Well, it's funny that you mentioned winning as well. And I want to touch on that as well in a second, the winning part. But
yeah,
ask me what you
yeah.
were curious about.
The thing I was curious about is when you changed the tone, was something said to you that was slightly hurtful?
Not necessarily. I think what happened was we were back in our house. Like when we were out in public, like it was funnier. And then as soon
Oh,
as we're
okay.
behind closed doors, all of a sudden it's like, let me release this thing and see what the reaction is because maybe in my head, like, oh, why are we getting along? Right? Like, because I'm so used to not getting along. And we don't argue all the time, trust me. But when we do, like, it's usually in the house. And I'll put this in another way. Like, we could have a great date night and have a
Yeah.
wonderful time. And we could be 10 minutes from our house. That last minute, as we get closer to the house, things shift. And we get in the
Mm.
house and suddenly it's about whatever's bothering us and versus being in that moment. So I'm either looking back or looking forward and I'm not mindful of the present moment that I'm in and controlling that versus letting the past and the future affect how I interact.
That's another thing. Like in the house, are there unsettled things that when you step into it, it kind of holds the space? Things that are,
Yeah, I think so. And maybe I'm not aware of all of them, but there's one
mm,
where like we're both alpha personalities
mm,
and we'll clash on things sometimes and she'll say stuff like, you know, I don't want to be the leader, but in moments of when I'm leading the family, I get interrupted with, hey, it should be done a different way or something like this. And for whatever reason, that irks me because I'm supposed to be the leader and you're interrupting sense uh like my son went on a date with his girlfriend a few weeks ago and he doesn't make a lot of money, but he spent I don't know like $150 on a date. And my cautionary conversation was to him was like maybe go Dutch a little bit more often, maybe share the bills. And I immediately got interrupted by my wife because when I was younger, I dated a girl who somehow just bleached off of me. She talked me into using credit cards, and before I knew it,
mm,
I was in debt. And when we
yeah,
broke up, she was fine because she still had all of her money and this other stuff. And that was the conversation I was trying to have, but I never got to it, and I was interrupted because I didn't get to fully express my thoughts. And
yeah.
that kind of put me in a spot where I'm like, okay, well now I'm just going to go to the fight mode and go to something hurtful. But uh, it's I'm having a lot of realizations during this conversation. Does this happen with every conversation you have with people where they start to have realizations?
It just depends. It depends on what zone, what kind of how we're vibing. It's just this is how
Yeah,
it
and
kind
I'm
of
pretty open with
unfolded.
who I am as a person because there's a
Yeah.
lot to work on. And you know, and the more I express to people, the more I have to work on, the more willing they are to tolerate some of my nonsense. And you know, and I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
So to your point, when we enter the house, all of a sudden the family's there, like the kids are there and they're looking at us, and for whatever reason I feel like suddenly I have to assert the dominance that is being taken away from me in a situation, whereas if we're out and it's just the two of us, like I'll let stuff slide. It's
Mm.
kind of like a slap fight, right? If you get in a slap fight with somebody, before you know it, one guy hits too hard and then it turns into a full fight. If that
Yeah.
slap fight happens in front of other people, it's quicker to turn into the fight because you want to prove to the other people in the room you're the one who can
Yeah.
slap harder.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what happens more often than not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think and
Wow.
this is where it gets
You're really
difficult.
good at this, Peter, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those moments, when you said uh my dominance was you felt that it was taken away from you.
But I've never said that to her to let her know how I feel about that.
Yeah. And it's what will happen is that will go, okay, either a snap, rah, the beast comes out and goes, rah, but that person in
Yeah.
that part of you that
Yep.
is upset or sad about it never gets their voice. They never get to speak.
Right.
They and they're
Yeah.
constantly
And it's
being looked
probably
after
because I've
by.
never set that parameter.
Yeah. So the beast comes out and just goes, "Rawr," and then the little one's like, but you're not saying what I want to say. That's not what I want to say. I have something that I want to say, and you just keep on coming out and screaming, but you're not listening. So inside within your own system, the ones that really want to
Yeah.
speak, that go, this is not okay for me. You said these things, and I'm just going to correct. Are you correct in what that you did you mean that when you said that you wanted me to lead? I just need to know
Yeah.
that. Because if it's not, then it's another conversation. But that's what I understood. Am I right in understanding that's what happened? Well, if it is leading,
Yeah.
what happens is when we in front of somebody else that comes in, I feel miserable. And it's that part inside when that vulnerable part can speak, resentment starts to disappear. The aggression doesn't really deal with the internal ones that have a voice that are never
Yeah.
heard.
More often than not, when our fights start, it's when there's other people around in the family.
Mm.
And it's kind of it's that thing. Like if it's just the two of us and we're out having a great time, it's a great time. You can
Yeah,
banter all way all you want. But the second
yeah,
it turns into that slap fight where the somebody's got to banter a little bit harder than the other one, like I always go for the slam dunk and go to the worst thing, and not the meanest thing, but I'll look for that thing that wins. And that's what I wanted to get
yeah,
to earlier.
yeah.
It's not even about how it's about winning sometimes. Like we have family events,
Mm.
and a lot of our family events, like family will play games and stuff, and there'll be like 14, 15 people playing. I'm not allowed to play because I'm the guy who's like, these are the rules to the game. This is how you win. This is how you do
Yeah,
everything. And it's about the win. And I've
yeah,
gotten better at that, like at game time, but I
yeah,
haven't understood that that's part of my mentality when I'm in other situations. And
yeah, yeah,
again, another thing I learned during this conversation. Yeah.
yeah.
So you start doing all this training and you're learning about how people interact with each other and people behave with each other. How long after you start your own process do you really start to get control of it?
It's a long time.
Okay.
I would say 10 years, 15 years.
Wow. Of constant growth to get really ahead
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. I would say
Wow.
10 years, 10, 15
And were
years.
you single during those 10 years?
No, I started when I was in a relation. Well, the first one happened. The first time was what was that? 2006. Is that right? About 2006 is when I realized that there was an issue.
Okay.
And I tried at that time I was studying NLP and timeline therapy.
Okay. That's
And
neuro-linguistics.
yeah, sorry, yeah, neuro-linguistic programming. And timeline therapy is where you go down the times of where you've had your traumas through your life, and you
Mm-hmm.
go visit them and you deal with them and you release them. And that when I realized how much I had along these lines, so you go around fear, you go around anger, you go around sadness, you go around guilt, you just go down those lines, you just clean them up.
Yeah.
And they didn't go completely, but it was the beginning of understanding, wow, there's a
Right.
lot in there that I need to untangle. And I also I tried lots of different things and things that didn't quite, you said about the self-helps, things weren't working, they weren't making any
Yeah.
difference. Well, they weren't saying
You're
what
like
they said on
spinning
the
your
tin.
wheels for a while.
Yeah. So it was the ones I named were the ones that made the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to see the speed was the fastest change was the mindfulness, the loving communication, and understanding that I'm made up of different psychological parts, and there are
Yeah.
no bad parts, as they say within an IFS, within your own
Right.
system. They're
What
they're
does
just
IFS stand for?
internal family systems.
Okay.
So it's that you are a family within yourself,
Oh,
and
okay.
your
So there's
partner.
different personalities and
Yeah,
different, and I'm assuming in those different personalities, there's different ages of who you are as well
yeah,
in those things, right? Like you may have a childhood,
yeah,
a child part of your personality that behaves a certain way, and that same situation makes your teenage version of yourself act this different
yeah.
way, but they're all fighting each other at the same time on the inside.
And then just to add to it, your wife also has a whole family system.
Yeah. And then we got like,
So
it's like the McCoys versus the Hatfields. It's
yes,
just two families fighting each other all the
yeah,
time.
exactly, exactly. So
Wow.
yeah,
So,
and I
so,
think
so you go ahead. I'm sorry. You
no,
start
it's just
getting
the
better at
idea.
learning these things about yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So it came. So I'd been doing performance for 25 years, and I'd studied improvisation in New York.
Okay.
And I used to go there every summer and do the training. And I started using it when I was doing consulting for businesses. Because when I
Hmm.
retired, I started doing that for creative thinking in businesses. And the
Yeah.
communication on it was amazing. And then I was doing NLP, so I was coaching. So I was coaching sometimes people helping in relationships or couples, or sometimes it was business or whichever direction it was going in. And I was working with this couple, and I was using improvisation techniques, and I was using NLP techniques, and I was talking about the nervous
Hmm.
system, and they're going, I've never worked in this way before. And
Yeah.
this client of mine just looked at me. I was on the Zoom and just said, "You have to write a book about this. You have to write a book about this." And that was the moment where I was like, "Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll put this all together and actually get a
Yeah.
framework of what I'm doing," because I was just doing it from my experience and
Sure.
different. So some of it's academic, like I have an MA in leadership and change. So that was all kind of in
Okay.
that area. Some of it's creative from being on the theatre and the raw improvisation. Some of it's from my own
Wow.
experience, from my own journey through relationships. Some of it's from my own meditation practices, and just putting it all together. and then working with people and
Hmm.
seeing that it was beneficial for them. So I was like, okay, there's something here. So that's
Yeah.
how it kind of came about.
So it was it difficult to write the book, or did it flow out of you? Or uh, tell me about the book for a second. Is it more of a guide? Is it an instruction manual? Is it a how-to? Is it a little bit of both? Like,
I would say it's a
how
mixture.
does one use your book? Okay.
I think the main thing is to inform uh, people that they're okay and that there's a lot going on. That if they that where they can get back if they
Yeah.
if they start to look at these areas, that it's not just a lot of the time we just do it psychologically, and that's the thing that has got us into the problem in the first place, and we can't
Hmm.
sometimes think our way out of it. Just makes it worse. So by co-regulating with somebody, by understanding your nervous system, by
Yeah.
understanding them more than an individual, just and how to play, how to build on humor, it gives foundations of going, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I can shift the pattern and that's what the book's really there to start to shift a pattern that you may have been
Yeah.
stuck in, that's going on for years and years and
Right. To
years. So
open
that's
your
the main
eyes. Like think of the conversation we've had for the last hour and 20 minutes. Like, I've learned a bunch of stuff about myself without you even really trying to point it out to me. So I can imagine the book would do some amazing things for somebody if you just pay attention to it. So what's the name of the book, by the way?
the book is The Playful Couple. Um,
Okay. And when was it published?
it's just actually quite new. I've just done it recently. So
Oh, okay.
it took me, I don't know, about 8, 9 months to write, and
Yeah.
then I've just recently, because I've only recently put everything together. Although I've been working with this for about 15
Okay.
years, I've only put this framework together in the last
Yeah.
year or so. So yeah, so the
And
books,
as
yeah,
as you're doing the framework, do you start to discover more things about yourself? Maybe things you weren't aware of? Because I find a lot of the times when I'm talking to people who write books, like they're very good at whatever they're doing, but whatever they're putting into the book takes them to the next level of the things they already know. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing is it's self-reflection. So you're there
Yeah.
may be a part that you've got over here, or there's a part that, and then you're really bringing them together and seeing how they all mix and go, oh, does that work like this? And can that? So you start pushing your own boundaries and bringing in
Yeah.
experiences that you go, oh, so that's why that's working. So it just gives that clarity. So yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I think it's a really great process of self-reflection.
Wow. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. We've had some technical difficulties throughout the thing, which I don't think will show up like on the video because Zoom kind of puts it all together. All somehow it'll work
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Uh, but there are moments where I'm sure I'm on the same as you, like where my screen is frozen and I'm just looking at you, and it's tough to work through those moments. But I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the book, it's available everywhere. It's on Amazon. Is it in bookstores?
Yes, the bookstore release hasn't quite happened yet. It's ready to go, but I'm concentrating on Amazon at the moment. So
Okay.
I've got a promotion. I'm putting it out there for 99p on Kindle. So I need to
Mm.
get reviews on it to get it
Okay.
moving. So I'm going into promotion mode now with it now.
Okay. And besides the book, you also have a practice and is it more coaching and mentoring the other parts of
Yes.
stuff you do?
Yeah, so I do
And you
individuals
do
and
it professionally
couples.
and for relationships as well, right?
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
business and relationships. Okay.
I've
And
kind of stopped on the business so much now. I'm concentrating more on individuals in relationships and relationships. I decided to home it into this area.
okay. And just find like a focus for the
Yeah,
things that you're doing.
yeah.
And if you were to go back and talk to Peter from 30 years ago, like how would you treat that guy if you didn't know him and he presented to you who he was at the time? And we'll say his name wasn't even Peter, but he's you.
Yeah.
What would be your guide? Like, how would you coach yourself? Like, obviously, you've already done it, but meeting it,
Yeah.
knowing what you know now and being able to meet that version of yourself, what would you change?
I would I'd first recognize that I think you've done really well. You're a professional dancer and you've got a great career and you've reached you're a great
Yeah,
performer. There is, and you feel that you're sensitive and you're vulnerable and you express this stuff on stage, but the stage is set, it's safe. There's a beginning and there's an end.
yeah,
And you may find those things that happen in your relationship, there isn't a beginning there, and there aren't lights, there's not a performance. There's a vulnerability that
right.
in real life you're going to have to go into if you're going to want that full sense of living. The stage gives you something amazing, and you are in the present moment, and it
Right.
is like
Yeah.
wonderful connections with people around you, but you want that connection in your intimate relationship. You're going to have to let go of the safety and actually go in there and
Yeah.
find the same type of energy, but it's going to be deeper within yourself.
Wow. I had a conversation that we would have had the first time we got together and had our technical difficulties. And and honestly, I would love to have other conversations with you because I feel discoveries of how I behave. And a lot of the times it's not it's almost like you're like almost like a Jedi. Like where you're kind of like you're like these aren't the droids and I'm like these aren't the droids. It's kind of that thing. Uh I've really loved it. What do you have a website? What's the name of the book? Where can they find it? Where can they find you? Like throw all that out there. And before you do that, I I would love to have another conversation. Maybe a few months down the line, we pick a specific topic.
Yeah,
Today
absolutely. Yeah.
it was more of a get to know you kind of a thing, but I
Yeah.
would love the topic, and I think people would get a lot out of that. So where can people find all your stuff?
Yeah. So the playfulcouple.co.uk is my website. And the book is The Playful Couple. So just, yeah, put that in and contact me if you want to chat more.
Awesome. I've really enjoyed it. Hang on one sec. I'm just going to wrap this up over on this side, and then I want to chat for another second.